is the program, The Mailbox. I'm Pastor Courtney Morrison sitting in today. Again, we won't have Kevin Bailey with us. My co-host is off on not honeymoon, celebrating his wedding anniversary. Happy anniversary to Kevin and Muriel Bailey. Today's topic is Reaching Men. It's August 21, 2024. The program is The Mailbox. And we just want to remind you that the mailbox is brought to you today by Solid PVC Pipes, manufactured in Jamaica by Fosrich Company Limited. This is the program hosted by men whose guests are men. And indeed, our entire program is featuring men. But just before going further, we want to talk a little bit about the topic, just to see. Reaching Men is one of the most important pieces of an effective local church ministry. When men get serious about their relationship with Jesus, they bring their families with them. If men aren't serious about their faith, though, their wives and their children may still attend church, but the quality of their faith suffers. Whether they accept it or not, men really do lead their families. The issue is whether they lead them in the right direction or the wrong direction. Yes, effective church leadership in modern times has come to terms with men's spiritual needs, how to reach men and facilitate their growth as spiritual leaders. One of the main reasons church attendance and participation is declining is our failure in reaching men. Some men don't connect with church because they find it boring. We are not defending men for their attitude, not at all. The reality is that if a thing is true, then you'd better pay attention to it regardless of how engaging you find it at any given moment. A man pays his taxes every year. Even if grinding out the numbers is tedious, the consequences are too painful otherwise. Still, modern church life doesn't fit men's needs or expectations. Our programs are always shilling for participation. Our budget needs to make us beg for money. And we have made the church's institutional needs to the measurements of engagement with the kingdom of God. When you lay all that alongside the pressures men face in earning a living, caring for a family, and trying to get a handle on their own issues and needs, most Christian men just tune the church out or grudgingly tolerate it like they would a nagging mother-in-law. But men in and around churches are still searching for something. This is the Mailbox, the program designed for men, with guests who are men, hosted by men. And it's aired every Wednesday, unless it's a public holiday, at 5:30 p.m. right here in Love 101, the family station. It is the Mailbox. I'm Pastor Courtney Morrison. And we just want to thank all our listeners for making Love 101 your station of choice. We're talking about the topic, Reaching Men today. It promises to be encouraging, educational, and enlightening. When men get serious about their relationship with Jesus, they bring their families with them. How do we therefore attract and develop more of our men to become mentors and leaders in the church? What are some of the success stories of men's ministry in our time? We're going to be investigating that today. So we're asking you, if you have a pastor, if you have a friend, if you have those in churches who are longing to see a good men's ministry, now is the time to call them up and say, tune into the Mailbox. This is the discussion, Reaching Men. And our guest today that will help us is Pastor Gilbert Wesley. And Pastor Gilbert Wesley is the founder and director of Caribbean Anchor of Hope Incorporated. Gilbert Wesley is a ministry entrepreneur, pastoral care ministry, and consultant. He has been involved in various leadership positions such as youth ministry, men's ministry, couples ministry, evangelistic outreach, home Bible studies, and audio-visual technology. Gilbert served as pastoral care and interim minister within the 4 states of the Midwest of the USA for over 7 years, and as a hospital chaplain. He has served in Canada for 12 years and counting and Jamaica for 10 years. So this is a man with vast experience and knowledge that we're going to tap in today. Pastor Wesley migrated to Canada in 1988, where he completed his formal training in refrigeration and air conditioning. I wonder what his church looked like. It must be good, especially in a hot climate like Jamaica. He later started his own business, which he managed for 12 years. While in Canada, Gilbert served over 12 years as an elder at Bramalea Christian Fellowship Church. There he served as assistant youth leader, men's ministry director. He and his wife served as couple ministries director and in the audiovisual ministry. Gilbert has a bachelor degrees in Jewish history, an associate degree in heating and refrigeration. In 2001, he visited Jamaica and was disheartened by the church's youth without a leader and or mentor. Pastor Wesley was challenged by the words of the prophet Nehemiah to do something about what he had seen. The Lord made it possible for him to attend Bible college and go into full-time ministry in 2002. His wife and their two baby sons relocated to the Joplin, Missouri, where he attended Bible college for 5 years, equipping himself for the service of his master. This man is no small individual, but one who is diverse and one indeed who seems to have it all under his hat. And so we welcome you, Pastor Gilbert Wesley. Good to have you on the program. Thank you for putting us in your schedule. How are you this afternoon?
I am doing very well. Very well. Better than I should have.
I'm wondering if you need to get a little closer to your mic. I'm not hearing you that well.
Yes, I am doing very well. I say better than I should have. I'm doing.
You look like someone who used to be a part of Jamaica Youth for Christ, but then I could be mistaken.
No, you're not.
I'm not. You are the same Gilbert Wesley.
Same Gilbert.
There you go, sir. I just joined Jamaica Youth for Christ as part of the Kingston chapter with under Sir Andrew Stone, Dexter Gordon, and Barry Hood and Errol D. Rattray. It's good, sir. I recognize the face quite well. You haven't changed much. It's good to have you, Sir Gilbert.
Yes.
We just want to remind persons who have tuned in that we are live on TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. And indeed, you can leave your comments via WhatsApp line at 876-997-3125. Let me give you that number again, 876-997-3125. Thanks for joining in, everyone. And ladies, we haven't forgotten you, although it's a male program. We want you to participate. You may leave your text messages on that WhatsApp line number. But remember, no calls nor voice notes allowed. The question for this afternoon on our social media pages for you to answer and platform is this: is the church doing enough to reach our men? Sir Gilbert, I'm happy you're the one in the hot seat today, because I'm going to throw my questions out there, because everybody knows when we come on to this topic is one of those topics that I'm particularly passionate about, because I want to know what happened. But just before going further, I want to give a shout out. What we do at this time, Gilbert, is, and I may call you Gilbert, you see, sometimes I need to ensure I speak to persons with their titles, you see? So, Pastor Gilbert.
Gilbert is fine.
Gilbert is fine.
Yeah.
I'm sure persons like Heather Wright and Anne-Marie Dunbar would love to know that you're on. If anybody know where they are, try call them and tell them Gilbert is on today. We give this shout out where after 3, we shout Monday. So I'm going to count to 3, and at the end, we just shout out Monday. All right? So 1, 2, 3, Monday. Yeah, we want to give some shout out to a number of persons who are listening. I want to say a big shout out to Mr. Sean McEwan. We know that indeed this weekend we give you condolences to you and your family. We know it's the funeral service for your mom. And so we just want to continue to reach out to you, the family of Marcel Thomas as well, David John Thomas. Our condolences to you and the members at Portmore Missionary Church and Fellowship Tabernacle, Portmore, and all those who are involved. Sir, it's your time now, we're getting closer to the meat of the matter. And so the question is, on the onset, is the church doing enough to reach our men? Yea or nay?
Nay. Nay. No.
Nay?
No.
Why you say nay, sir?
Well, the evidence is visible. And if you look at what is happening in our society and around us, even for the result of GSAT, you see where our young men fall on the spectrum, which is not GSAT anymore. But right along through society, in this culture, you find the young men are the one that faces much more oppression and discrimination. And there is not that encouragement for them, from my observation. I happen to work with them from different spectrum of society, and they're hungry for people, for the church to reach out, to accept them and to take them from where they're at. Mm-hmm. But what I find in this culture, the church is expecting them to come into the church righteous and holy, when there is not that example in their community. And there's the opportunity for the church to take them as they are and to work with them, encourage them, inspire them, and facilitate them where they're at, so you can work with them and help to bring them up in the church. One of the major problems that is plaguing Western culture now is finding pastors to fill the pulpits. Across the US, across Canada, Europe, and Jamaica, same thing. You cannot find the pastors, eligible pastors, to fill the pulpits, to carry on the work of the Lord in the church.
What's causing that shortfall, that deficiency? Why aren't we able to find pastors to fill those roles?
Well, there ought to be male mentorship in the church. I give you an example. I served at Bramley Christian Fellowship in Canada for 12 years. And when I started there was no men's ministry, no focus on the men's development and the youth, as to say, for the next generation. So I had to initiate that through the guidance of the senior pastor at that time. And he just opened his arm and says, "Go, you have my blessings." And we started that, and it flourished. Yeah. It blossomed.
Well, we want to get a bit more into that, because we want to hear how you got it to blossom, how you got it to flourish, how you got it to bear fruit. But we're up on our first break. It's 5:45 in the afternoon here in Kingston, Jamaica. And you're listening to the program, The Mailbox. Our topic, reaching men. Our guest, Pastor Gilbert Wesley. And we'll be talking a bit more in depth after this break. Soon come back.
Strong man.
When you say Phosrich, you say electrical. SWA cables, conduits, transformers, and breakers. When you say Phosrich, you say lighting, chandeliers, and more. When you say Phosrich, you say LEDs and solar water heaters. Phosrich is electrical, lighting, solar, and LEDs. Visit us today, Kingston, Mandeville, and Montego Bay. Phosrich. I am
I'm so happy for back to school. But wow, getting back to a quiet house comes at a price, right? Flow knows how to ease you up for back to school. With a $15,000 gift card to help take care of your back to school expenses and a free school bag. Your books aren't going to carry themselves, right? Make back to school easier and sign up for Yard and Road. Get internet at home and mobile on the go for only $5,300 plus GCT. Flow Yard and Road makes every day better. Visit a Flow store today. Conditions apply.
Receive words of strength from the Voice of Power with Bishop Dr. Delford Davis.
The battle of seed has been declared many years ago and is still raging. I will put enmity between thee and between the woman, thy seed and her seed. A war will be on perpetually until Jesus returns. But I know who has already won the war. I know who has already won the war.
That's the Voice of Power with Bishop Dr. Delford Davis, brought to you by the Power of Faith Ministries International in Portmore. Voice of Power comes to you every Thursday at 9:30 a.m. right here on the Family Station. Love 101.
Welcome back to the program. It's the Mailbox. I'm Pastor Courtney Morrison. Our co-host Kevin Bailey won't be in today. We continue to just wish him a happy anniversary as he celebrates time with his wife. I'm sure Pastor Gilbert Wesley, who is our guest, would have loved to have been talking with Kevin as well. We were all a part of Jamaica Youth for Christ at one stage. He migrated shortly after Gilbert in 1988 when I was just joining Jamaica Youth for Christ and the Kingston chapter. But he's here to tell us how to reach men. Before we went for the break, he was telling us about how he got the blessings from his pastor at Bramalea over there in Canada. Am I right, or is that Missouri? One or two states. You will correct me.
Canada. That's in Canada.
It's in Canada.
Yes.
And how he got it to flourish. But before we get in depth to that part, because that would just be giving us the meat into the matter, we want to talk a bit about who is Gilbert Wesley. Where was he born? Tell us a bit about growing up. Kevin has a favorite question. Were you born with a gold spoon in your mouth, a wooden spoon, or no spoon at all? We want to hear a little bit more about who you are, sir. Please take us through a little bit of your history.
Okay. If there was a gold spoon, it had tarnished. So there was no gold spoon.
Yes.
There was none. I met my father when I was 9 years old.
Wow.
So it was my mother and my grandparent that I grew up with.
Yes.
Yes. So that was one of the absentee in my life, which
Yes.
I wasn't aware of because that was norm, because that's what I born and come to realize that was the norm. So after which I decided that I had a desire for the Lord, for church. I just love to go to church. If there's a crusade in the community in Manchester, you can guarantee I am going to be there. And my mother never hindered me or never stopped me, regardless of how young I was at the time. If it was whichever church it was, I would be there. And I've reflecting, looking back at that, and to see there was that zeal in me, that unction in me to reach out to the things that are spiritual, the things that are holy and upright. That was embedded in me from there. So I continued to grow and develop and mature. That was in the parish of Manchester. So I migrated to Kingston when I was 14. And the first church I found was on Shortwood Road, Stillmaris. I started going there and I said, this is not enough for me.
Okay.
This is not enough for me. And I left there and I went to Shortwood United, and it was a little better.
Okay.
But still was not what filled within me, filled me, because I went to church, I sat, and after church over, not even to say hi, no one, just, So I look back at that and realize the church is not welcoming to male or young men unless they follow through a certain pipeline of connectivity. But for someone just looking for a place to worship and go to a church, that was not welcoming.
That didn't exist.
That was the experience I had. I'm not saying that is the general consensus, but I continued to go and seek. And then I bumped into the wrong crowd. That was where my challenge came. Guys would drink and, just the wrong type of crowd. So I end up finding myself in nightclubs, in, drinking.
We're talking about Pastor Gilly West found himself in that predicament.
That's correct.
How did you overcome that in your life?
All right. I was sitting in the nightclub. I can tell you the specific nightclub. It was Neptune, right at where, I think it was Scotiabank on Red Hills Road.
Yes.
And I was upstairs there one Sunday night drinking, waiting for my friends to come, and they never showed. And while I was sitting there, I asked myself the question, is this how I'm going to spend the rest of my life? What is going to happen to me if I continue along this pathway? And immediately, I paid my bill, never finished the beer, just put it down and walked out. Went straight to church.
Wow.
I said to the pastor, I'm ready to be baptized. He go like, really? I said, yeah. He led me to accept the
Sinner's prayer.
The sinner's prayer. And then out of that, never look back. Never look back.
Awesome. We're talking to Pastor Gilbert Wesley. He's a ministry entrepreneur, pastoral care minister. He's also the founder and director of Caribbean Anchor of Hope Incorporated. In case you're just joining us, he's a Jamaican, migrated to Canada. We're talking about reaching men. And apparently the Lord met him one day at a club that he was drinking and sent him straight to church. Sir Wesley, tell us a bit. You got involved in Youth for Christ. You got involved in the church. Tell us a little bit more along that line. What happened?
Well, Youth for Christ was the ideal place. I find it was a refuge for me at that time.
Yes.
Because there was a vacuum in the church. You go to church, the same hymns, everything, and the routine. And if you don't fit into certain status quo, nobody cares. Yeah. I went to Bible study, everything went over my head. I just didn't understand the lingo, and I said, what is this? And then a friend of mine invited me to Youth for Christ. And I went there to the rally at Stephanie Hall. And
Holy Cross Church.
Holy Cross Church, yes. And I got hooked there. And I get plugged in. I got involved. And it was like a plane taking off on a runway.
Yes.
Roy Scott was one of the main person who took me with him when he was going to preach. I don't know if you remember him.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Those were great days.
He took me on a crusade in my infant stage in Christendom. And he says, Gilly, you're going to preach Thursday and Friday night at this crusade. I can't make it. So you have been coming with me and the people know you, so you have to finish the week. I said, look, if they want to hear Jesus whip in different version, that's fine. And we sit down and we work out the sermon. And went and presented, and it was well received. And that was my encouragement for my first step into ministry.
That's
Right
what we
there.
call a setup by the Lord.
Yes, divine
You got
setup.
set.
But after which I continued in Youth for Christ and continued to grow, going on DJ trip, mission trips, and I started to mature there. And out of that, I become now one of the lead individual, become the youth pastor at the church where never paid me any mind now, because now I can articulate some more eloquently about the gospel, what I'm convicted of. And I started to work with the youth there. And that's where it progressed from there. From Youth for Christ. Then I migrated to Canada.
Yes.
And during that journey, the churches there were just, the focus was not what I'm accustomed to. In Jamaica, you have the church and you have their liturgical behavior and systematic, where you go. But it stayed tuned to the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
Going to Canada, it didn't stay focused to the gospel, but it stayed focused to how you find people just interact. And the church was more of bring your focus on the money, the finance, and that type of,
Yeah.
I wasn't accustomed to that. So I observed, and then I searched for a more balanced church. And that's when, shortly after I got married, and my wife came up with me, and we both progressed, and we started looking for a church, more holistic church, and we find one at Bramley Christian Fellowship, where we anchor ourselves there. And we served there for 12 years.
Nice.
Before I was called into ministry full time. But that part of it, Pastor Morris, was being somewhat fashioned from I was 14 years old.
Yes.
Because at 14 years old, which is unorthodox, I made a plan for my life at 14 years old. I planned that I'm going to buy myself my first watch when I reach 16. That's what I'm going to treat myself for my birthday. Yes. I said when I reach 21, because at that time 21 was the age for driver's license, I'm going to buy myself my first car. By the time 21, it changes, they changed that to 18 so that you could get a driver's license at 18. So I got a driver's license and I bought myself a car at 18. And then I made my plan from I was 14. I said, after which I'm going to buy myself a house.
Yes.
At age 25, I set that target. And then I said I will get married at age 28 because I don't want to get married and bring whomever, take a young lady from her parents to bring her into a rented house. I wanted to bring her in my own house. And that was my first 14-year plan that I made. And everyone came through. All those plans came to fruition. And I was pleased that I could execute that plan. So there was a lull after we got married.
Let's, as you say, a lull. Let's take another break, because who could it be but God to cause your plans to be established? It's 6 p.m. in the evening here. We're talking to Pastor Gilbert Wesley, and he is our guest for today. We're talking about reaching men. The program is The Mailbox. I'm Pastor Courtney Morrison. We'll soon come back right after these messages.
I
Ready, set, go! Race down to Singer to get golden deals on appliances, electronics, and furniture. Be a part of the action with LG 4K Ultra High Definition televisions. Get a free microwave with the purchase of an electric stove. Stay cool with inverter ACs now at the lowest prices this summer. Get freezers starting as low as $39,995. Only Singer has 120 days for cash and 9 months no interest. Shop today for unbeatable credit. Conditions apply.
Sometimes all we need is a listening ear. The listening ear, the counseling, the logical reasoning, and spiritual guidance are what appeal to us. That's why I'm here. I'm Dr. Joan Pinkney, the counselor, your counselor on Love 101 FM, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 10 to 11 p.m. You know you can call on me. I will listen and more. So let's talk about what's bothering you. Anything. Tune in, listen, call in, text or voice message. I'm Dr. Joan Pinkney, counseling psychologist, ready with a listening ear. Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 10 to 11 p.m. Right here on the fabulous station, Love 101 FM.
Welcome back. You're live on YouTube, Facebook, World Wide Web. It is the program, The Mailbox. I'm Pastor Courtney Morrison, sitting with Pastor Gilly West. And his name is Gilbert Wesley, but he has Gilly West up there for his name. We're talking about his journey into pastorship, pastoral ministry, entrepreneurship. And he went through the ranks of Youth for Christ and is now in Canada. We go with these last two segments. We really want to get into the meat of the matter, Pastor Gilbert. You're in Bromelia. You have approached the pastor about starting our men's ministry. We're reaching men. We want to hear how you got that program to flourish. We want some ideas for our churches here in Jamaica. And for, as we said, it's on the World Wide Web. For everyone listening who is having a struggle with men's ministry in particular, tell us how you got that one to flourish. Is there a template we can use? We want to hear it.
Okay. My first approach to the bed there, after I invited most of the men to join me in the first fellowship we had, my first template to them was, how to get beyond how are you? Because a lot of people go to church and during greeting times or after church, they have this synthetic way of greeting people. How are you? And they don't listen for the answer. They don't look in the person's eye.
True.
They don't ask, follow up with a question, how was your week? Or follow up with any other follow-up question according to their answer. So I had to work with them. That was the first step. How to get beyond how are you?
I like that.
So we launched in that aspect of it. But what I found out, the men, they were just there. They didn't have a clue as to how to function in their household as men. How to function in society, because they grew up with the female being the leader in their household. So they intend to recline and let the ladies continue to lead. I'm not bashing that. They did, the ladies and our mothers, they did a superb job in helping to develop the young men to where they're at. But there's no way a mother can replace the impact of a father in the household.
Yeah.
No way, it is not possible. And I can speak from example. We had two boys. And sometimes my wife would call me and says, look, you got to come and talk with them. You got to come, they're acting out. And I will talk with them on the phone and they have their own stories, but nevertheless, I can get them sorted out. But the men there, when I give them, distribute the assignment, I set up, well, the first thing I do was set up a committee of leadership from the men. So I have to be the one to train them. I didn't receive a formal training in men's ministry, but I had to do my own research and my preparation. And I took them away on a weekend once as the leaders and says, look, we're gonna pack ourselves into a hotel room and we're gonna stay there and we're gonna plan for
In this period of crisis, someone is waiting for your call. Please reach out today. 876-220-6474 or 876-332-7956. It's the telephone counseling and prayer ministry of the Edgewater Baptist Church. A reminder that somebody cares. Endorsed by Love 101.
When I come to the end of myself, Father, carry me. I am a man, yes.
Welcome back to the mailbox. We apologize sincerely for that break. It was unforeseen. We're talking about reaching men. I'm Pastor Courtney Morrison. The program is the mailbox. We're speaking to Pastor Gilbert Wesley. He's here with us. He is founder and director of Caribbean Anchor of Hope Incorporated, former member of Jamaica Youth for Christ Kingston chapter. He migrated from Manchester into Kingston. Then he migrated to Canada in 1988, shortly after his namesake, Gilbert, ravaged Jamaica. But he's here helping to restore balance with the men. And he was giving us a template as to how being in Canada and working 12 years in a ministry, how he got the men's ministry started. And we're hoping that persons are taking note. His first one was how to get past, how are you? And so he continues with the story. Thank you, Pastor Gilbert. May you go ahead, please?
Yes. So I had to now pull them together because they have no formal or informal training in leadership. So I would take them away for a weekend and then just pour into them and bring the best out of them, asking them to come up to the plate. And these are what we want to accomplish in the men's ministry. We have to set goals and how our measurable goals and how we can work towards making these goals become more effective in the church. And they rise to the occasion with exuberance and excitement. I could stand back on a Saturday evening when we had the men's ministry and look at them flourishing, taking up the leadership role, presiding, carrying out the different responsibilities they are. I was well pleased. So it took training, it took sacrifices.
Yes.
You know, people have got that desire to work with them. Yes.
One of our limitations here in Jamaica maybe the amount of men that we can find. How many do we need to start with to get trained, to help to set those goals, to help to flourish in leadership? What do we do?
All right. Let me start from where I started from here. I returned to Jamaica in 2007 to serve in ministry here. I served for 10 years.
Yes.
And in that period of time, I was placed in one of the most challenging community in Kingston here. But what I did, working with the youth and the young people, my wife is gifted in that area also. So on once per month, she would have the ladies that she's working with, and I would take the young men. I would go to our backyard. They know the routine. As they come, they set up the barbecue grill, set up the table, and we're going to have some burgers, and we're going to talk, men's talk. And I could be able to get them to start talk about what's going on in the school, what's going on in the atmosphere, in their sphere. And they start to feel a comfort and a kinship among each other so that they could now feel free to speak, to share, and to learn from each other. Just as Proverbs 27:17 says, as iron sharpens iron, so does one man sharpen the countenance of his friend. Yes. And that was what was taking place there. It went on extremely well. I could tell you the blessing that came from that with some of the young men. It was just, until today, I am just, give God thanks that he led me into that sphere. The young men today are in a warfare. They're in a struggle.
Yes.
The struggle they're in is between good and evil. Good and evil. You find the communities that they're in, the community leaders are seeking to pull them in one direction. The church is not as strong as reaching out to pulling them and to give them the ulterior option, the option as to this is what we are offering you. We have to be decisive with our plan for reaching the young men. That is what I focused on, the young men. Mm-hmm. We have to take them. It costs, both figuratively and literally. It costs to execute that and to win them away from the environment that some of them are in. The thing that I looked at, Pastor Morris, is this. Jamaica exports a lot of product. And in that same realm, they export people. Mm-hmm. When you live in metropolitan cities and you see Jamaicans that are there, the young men, they are most imitated by other young men from other parts of the world. Mm-hmm. Jamaican has this influence. They have this slang, they have this swag about them that is attracting to other persons who are looking towards, how can I be as cool as the Jamaican? You know, his pants falling off him and his hair look like it hasn't seen a comb from he was born, and his shirt and all of these type of things. That's what is attracting to some people. But there's the other side. That's all they knew growing up. And here it is. The church is in the surrounding, right where they are. But the churches are not reaching out to them. All they are doing, the most of the churches are doing, is condemning them. Yes. They have that at school. They have that at home. They have that around them. But the church was supposed to take the turn and to say, here is a place of refuge. Here is a place where we can work with you. We can serve with you. We can encourage you. some experience that I have had in ministry here. I would never imagine these things are happening in homes in Jamaica, the land that I grew up in. We work with several youth now, male and female. Some are now working as RN in the US. One young man is doing his second master's at Johns Hopkins University.
Excellent.
One of them is managing 2 Walmart stores in Florida. They are all over. We have here in this island, we have young persons came out of our ministry who are ER doctors. So the possibilities are there, but the churches need to figure out how to harness that. There's no cookie cutter method to it. The base level is no one has ever run away from love.
Let's stick it right there as we come to our final break for the mailbox. No one has ever been able to run away from love. It's about encouragement and not condemnation. We're talking about reaching men. The program is the mailbox. Our guest is Pastor Gilbert Wesley. We'll soon come back right after these messages.
Me, busy as usual, so I don't have no time for whole heap of paperwork. That's why I downloaded and signed up for my One JN Passport app. It's a whole new level of convenience and access to services within the JN Financial Group. Just a few taps on my smartphone and maps. I can update my personal information, open a JN Bank savings account, and even apply for an unsecured loan. Get it all in one go. Download and sign up now. The One JN Passport app. JN will help you find a way.
When you say Fosrich, you say electrical. SWA cables, conduits, transformers, and breakers. When you say Fosrich, you say lighting, chandeliers, and more. When you say Fosrich, you say LEDs and solar water heaters. Fosrich is electrical, lighting, solar, and LEDs. Visit us today, Kingston, Mandeville, and Montego Bay. Fosrich.
Yes.
Strong. Welcome back to the mailbox. We're talking to Pastor Gilbert Wesley. He is the founder and director of Caribbean Anchor of Hope Incorporated, and he is Jamaican who has men at heart. Before we went for the break, he was telling us how to reach men, and he says no one has ever been able to run away from love. And we need to encourage our men more than condemning them and speaking, as far as I would term it, death over them. I think I've read the end of the book and I see that we won. And therefore, there must be encouragement to our men to indeed have them participate and recognize that they are an important part in that victory that is to come at the end. Pastor Gilbert Wesley, please tell us a bit more. No one has been able to run away from love. How do we reach them? How do we let them know that this is love? What do we do?
Well, love is something you cannot fake it till you make it. They have to see you with a sincere heart.
Yes.
My wife and I came down here just for the past 2 weeks to work in another challenged community, to have a summer camp in there. When I did the research on the community, it shows that this is the 3rd most dangerous community in Jamaica. That was what was coming up. And I'm saying, I argued with the Lord. And we went. And on day 1, we had just about 34 young people show. It was probably mostly young men. I think we had 4 females. And by the final day, we had 60 plus came out. Pastor Morris, what we received there, the love that we showed to them. At first, they were a little skeptical, but they realized we hugged them, we encouraged them, we played with them. We developed games that they could be able to understand and to have fun. But at the same time, the Word of God was pivotal.
Yes.
That's where I reconnected with Kevin, because he was one of our camp speakers.
Okay, good.
Yes. And he did a fabulous job.
Yes.
One of the things he emphasized to them, that I keep hearing them repeating it, is that I'm preserving my virginity for when I get married.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the thoughts that keep resonating after Kevin spoke. This is from the young men there. That's what they want to do. And we work with them alongside. And I'm just coming from there. And they come, they hug. They says, can you please come back?
Yes.
And I'm saying to them, your attitude will determine your altitude. Because that was the theme of the camp. So now you have work to do until we are back. So when we are back, make sure that we see the altitude that you have garnered from the attitude change that you have made from our time being there.
Excellent.
And I guarantee that. I tell you something, my brother. When I hear those young boys start praying, it brings tears to your eyes.
Oh.
1 week. 1 week.
Is there something we are missing as church? Is there something more we can do? I hear that program too. We need to do follow-up as well to ensure that we're there. Mentorship. How important is that? Follow-up. What should the church do differently? We have about 5 to 6 minutes left. Help.
The church need to be the church. Mm-hmm. The church is not being the church as effective. The salt and the light of the church is not evident in its community. It's not having an impact on its community. And they need to go back to the base, go back to base, and to realize what they're doing. How effective is it? When last the church has an evaluation of their performance?
Yeah.
Are they setting measurable goals? Are they setting targets? They're sending out the ladies all along. The ladies are doing their best. But the men are there where they're not reaching, and they're not doing much to reach the men. They have to find strategies, because there's, as I said earlier, there's no cookie cutter method to reach men.
Yes.
They will not resist love and compassion and caring. It's going to take time for some of them, because they're not accustomed to people reaching out and showing them love, showing that they care. They have to know, increment by increment, work with them where they're at to bring them where they ought to be. As the father, the husband, the man of God, the church deacons, elders, leaders in the church, they have to start working with them and prove to them that they are someone of worth, someone of value, and they're the key element in our society.
They are the apple of God's eyes.
Yes.
They are, I don't know if Kevin spoke to it, that you are valuable, you are forgivable, and you are lovable. And I think we need to endorse that in the minds of our men. You know, you spoke about love, and, you know, most of our boys aren't hugged. You know, I just came out of a missionary church youth camp, ages 14 to 18. And I spoke there every morning in their devotions. And I have not forgotten this on the Friday night, the final night. I just completed talking about 30 of them just came from that. Well, did an altar call, about 30 of them came up. But then when they went back to their seat and I was completing, I said this: love you guys. There were 60 boys and 41 girls. Love you guys. And one of the young man who, trust me, he just ran out, hugged me, lift me up and said, love you for life, sir. And the tears just start running down my face same time. You know, we say it as church, if we reach even one, and I'm sure it seems as if more than one were reached, but what he did, and knowing his background. Sir Fabian, if you're listening, anybody know Fabian from Missionary Camp, Fort Camp, please tell him I said hi and tell him I love him. Our men need to experience love.
Yes.
You know, the emotional love, emotional love. You know, we need to experience it. I guarantee you it will change. Final words from you, Pastor Gilbert. I don't know. We probably have to have a part 2 because I still don't feel as if I've gotten the fullness of that flourishing ministry that we want to have a template of. But your final words, favorite scripture, I want you to end in prayer. Tell us. Encourage our men, encourage our churches. How do we get past this seeming barrier, seeming neglecting of our men when it comes on to church and love?
Okay. Ephesians 1 and verse 4 has a very interesting word in that verse. Before the creation of the world,
You were accepted in the beloved.
God had preordained us. He gave every human being a mark of identity because no one has their DNA. No one has their fingerprints. No one has their eye pupil. So until we start bringing out that to the men and women in our society, to let them know they're favorable, they're hand carved by God for a purpose, for a season, for a time. Every one of us have an expired date. We just don't know when it is. It's just like you go buy a carton of milk in the store. The milk inside that carton does not know the expired date on the bottle. But when it reaches that date, the milk fails. It's no longer habitable. And so it is with us.
30 seconds.
Okay. We must reach out in love to our men. Failing to plan is planning to fail. And those are the key strategies that I use to help men to prepare for their future.
Blessings. Pastor Gilbert Wesley, we're seeking to have a part 2 with you because we want to hear more and we want to be successful in this important area of the church's life, men's ministry. So we say thanks to Dr. Nadine Blair, Operations Programs Manager, Jermaine Johnson, our producer, Timoy Butler, for technical support. Thanks to you, sir, our guest, founder and director of Caribbean Anchor of Hope Incorporated. We end the show with this quote. The secret of reaching men is to know the secret of reaching God. And we don't know who wrote it. It's anonymous. But the secret to reaching men is to know the secret of reaching God's heart. This was the program designed for men with guests who are men. The mailbox was brought to you today by Solid PVC Pipes, manufactured in Jamaica by Fosrich Company Limited. Catch you next week, Wednesday, August 28th, 2024. Same place, same time, inside the mailbox. Next week, Monday. Thank you, Pastor Gilbert West. Good to see you again. Yes, thanks.
Thank you.
I am a man, yes.